Hello everyone and welcome back to Classic Doom Shenanigans. I'm really glad to see you again. Well, actually I can't really see you, but I can at least try to imagine you. Anyway, today I'm in the mood to visit some relatives. If we imagine the Doom games as a family, these two guys that we'll be visiting today are like the cousins who live in another city but are pretty close to the family, and so they come to visit pretty often. These guys are, of course, Heretic and Hexen, and I'll even include Hexen's official add-on, Death Kings of the Dark Citadel. These games were made by Raven Software, and back in the 90s the partnership between id Software and Raven was legendary. Like, id Software would make some amazing new engine, then Raven would get a hold of it, make some improvements to it, and release some really mind-blowing game using this technology. Like, for example, with the Doom engine they made Heretic and Hexen. With the Quake 2 engine they made Soldier of Fortune and Heretic 2. With the Quake 3 engine they made stuff like Jedi Outcast and Jedi Academy. At any rate, whatever technology they got, Raven always made something amazing out of it. They were really good at crafting games with really powerful single-player campaigns, and that's how we remember them. Well, sadly this partnership ended in 2009 due to one company being acquired by Bethesda, while the other stayed with Activision, and as a certain famous YouTuber would say, Raven were sent to the Call of Duty mines, a pretty dark place where they remain to this very day. Yeah, not a very pleasant story. Now, before we start, we should take a quick look at the version history. Now, Heretic's history is actually pretty similar to Doom's. Originally it was released as a 3-episode game, distributed using the shareware model, and we have just two versions here, the initial 1.0 and the slightly updated 1.2, which was mostly a bug fix update, and in fact I'm going to show you some of the bugs that were fixed. And then there was an upgraded version released commercially, just like the Ultimate Doom. It was called Shadow of the Serpent Riders. It had 5 episodes, and it has only one version number, 1.3. And just like with the Ultimate Doom, a patch was released to upgrade the 3-episode version into the 5-episode one, and this patch was freely available for everyone. In fact, you can still find it and download it nowadays. So if you happen to have a 3-episode version of Heretic for DOS, you can upgrade it to the 5-episode one. Now, Hexen also had only two versions, 1.0 and 1.1. And again, 1.1 was mostly a bug fix update. It also corrected some flaws in some of the maps that allowed for sequence breaking, and I think it also introduced 8-player multiplayer, something like that, and the add-on Death Kings of the Dark Citadel. And when I say add-on, keep in mind it's just a WAD file. The whole add-on is contained in the file called hexdd.wad, and it requires Hexen 1.1 to run. It has only 2 versions as well, but they don't really have official numbers, so I'll just call them the unpatched and the patched version. And the difference between them is that the original unpatched release doesn't have music. They didn't update the music info lump in the WAD file. So when you play the new levels, there's no music in the background. the patched version fixes this problem, so now all levels have music in them, which is nice, of course. So, what oddities are we going to talk about today? We will start with Heretic, of course, because it came first. More specifically, I will look into one of its weapons. Weapon number 7, to be exact, the Fire Mace. There are several peculiarities about it. First of all, it was a bit of a secret weapon. It wasn't mentioned in the game's printed manual or in the in-game help screen. It's like they intended it to be a surprise. Furthermore, the way the Fire Mace appears in levels, in single-player mode especially, is a bit unusual. You see, the map designers would usually place several Fire Mace items in the map. However, they act as spawning points, potential spawning points. And for each of these spawning points there is a chance that the Fire Mace may appear there, so it's kinda random. If you've played Heretic for a long time, you may have noticed that the Fire Mace always seems to appear in a different location, and sometimes it doesn't appear at all. In fact, the chance for the Fire Mace to appear in a level is about 75%, as far as I know. And there is always a chance that it will not appear at all. So you might explore the entire level and get nothing. And there's an additional behavior on top of all this in the initial 1.0 release of Heretic, which I'll explain a bit later. We're going to look at one specific Fire Mace that I chose for this purpose. It's located in E3M9 in a small secret room near the start. Here you can see a screenshot from a map editor. So yeah, that's a small secret room and a Fire Mace item placed inside it, which, as I explained earlier, acts as a potential spawning point of sorts. And here you can see it in three-dimensional view, exactly how it's positioned. And I mentioned an additional behavior. You see in the original 1.0 Fire Mace spots that were unoccupied, meaning that a Fire Mace did not spawn in there, were instead filled in with additional monsters, and the monster type depended on the episode you were playing. So for episode 1 that would be a disciple of the Sparrow, in episode 2 a were-dragon, and in episode 3 an Ophidian. Keep in mind that the episode 1 behavior could not be observed in the original game, since the Fire Mace doesn't appear in any of the episode 1 maps. The only way you could observe this was with a custom map. So this sounds like a cool idea in theory. However, these additional spawn monsters could cause some potential problems in the maps. There was one particular problem in E3M6 where an additional spawned Ophidian could cause a platform to get stuck, preventing the player from accessing a secret. So because of this you couldn't get 100% kill secrets and items. And that's why in the next version, 1.2, this behavior was removed altogether. So now unoccupied Fire Mace spots are just empty, there's nothing in them. And now I guess we can finally jump into DOSBox and take a look at this thing. So here we are in the box. First we'll visit version 1.3 of Heretic, the latest and current version, which is also the one with 5 episodes. I have a save game prepared. So here we are in E3M9, which I showed you a screenshot of. That's the little secret which contains a Fire Mace spawning point. And oh, look at that, there's nothing here. So this time around the spawning point turned out empty. well, you can't win every time. Yeah, but what about version 1.0? As I mentioned, there's an additional behavior there, which will fill in the empty spot with a monster, more specifically an Ophidian, because this is episode 3. Let's check. And sure enough, there's the Ophidian, filling the empty spot. And, as I mentioned before, this behavior had to be removed because it caused some trouble. Oh, while we're here, look at this texture. It seems a bit too gray, you know, like it doesn't have enough contrast. It's kind of pale, doesn't it? It could surely use some more contrast, right? Oh, let's see what happened in the newer version. I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but here they actually retouched the texture a little bit. So see, now it has more contrast, the background is more black and the figure is more pronounced. It definitely looks better this way, so I'm glad they did this change. Now, before I start demonstrating some of the oddities about the fire mace, I will show you a little oversight they made on it. You can't see it now, but if you enlarge the screen all the way to the max, now do you see this? There's something like a black rectangle at the base of the fire mace. It's like a piece of the graphics is missing, and I guess that's exactly what happened. When you shoot you can't see it, but when you're idle you can clearly see this black spot. So I guess someone at Raven really forgot to finish the graphics, or something went wrong while saving them, I'm not sure. Anyway, one of the specific features of the fire mace is that it's powered up mode, and by powered up mode I mean the one when you use the Tome of Power, launches these big balls which can instantly kill all regular monsters, and they do that by causing them 10,000 damage all at once. Boss enemies, however, and by boss enemies I mean Iron Liches, Molotors, and Despero himself, have an immunity to this effect. So when you hit them with one of these big iron balls of death, they just take a little bit of damage and are not insta-killed. Let me demonstrate. So yeah, that's E1 M8. We have a bunch of Iron Liches here, which are convenient for the demonstration. And as you can see, they don't get insta-kill. Oh, come on. Yeah, I hit them a few times and nothing happened. They have immunity. But here's the interesting question. Did they always have this immunity? As it turns out, they didn't. In version 1.0, they did not have this immunity. I don't know if this was deliberate or an oversight by the developers, but the situation is that they don't have this immunity, and now I'll show you. Bam, bam, and bam. Insta-kills from the fire mace. And since we're here, I can show you another bug associated with... wait, I'll pause because this weapon is really noisy. Another bug associated with version 1.0. You see, in this version, every time you beat episode 1, the game will crash. Yeah, it's annoying, I know. Just let me clean up these guys. Well, why am I wasting time? I'll just cheat. So just run to the exit real quick. Come on. And now I'll pause for the duration of the text. And here I am back again. I paused so that you wouldn't have to wait for the text to show up. You can speed it up in vanilla. And now And now the game crashes. And if you look at the error message, you can actually get an idea why exactly it crashes. w_get num for name order not found. Order in this case is the ordering info screen. In the shareware version of Heretic, when you finish episode 1, you see the ordering info screen which tells you how to get the full version of the game. However, the full game doesn't have the screen in its IWAD. And so when the game tries to load it, it fails and crashes. And the reason it tries to load it is probably just a simple oversight. They forgot to remove the code that makes the game display the ordering info screen. This was, of course, fixed in the next version, so when you finish episode 1, Heretic shows the credit screen, as it should. Okay, at this point I think we have only one more thing about Heretic to show in terms of oddities. So I'll load up this one once again, and I'll show you the inaccessible hidden level. Yeah, all versions of Heretic have a hidden level, or several hidden levels, that can only be accessed by cheats. In the original 3-episode version, this hidden level appears as E4M1. So I have to cheat to get there. And in order to go to E4M1, I'll have to type in engage 41. I'll cheat again and remove the monsters so that they don't get in the way. So that's the hidden level. It doesn't even have a name, as you can see on the other map, because it's not really supposed to be found. And this level has a bit of a history behind it, but I'll explain it a bit later. So here we have a room with some slime pit, an iron lich, a room with exploding pods. There is this place up here which, well, you'll see its significance a bit later. Although in this version of the map it doesn't really have anything. There's this room here with an elevator, there's some weapons. You open this by jumping from here. And there's also an area in the back which has, what did it have? Oh, Wings of Wrath, nice. And an elevator to return back up. Now the worst thing about this level is that it doesn't have an exit, so once you clear it out, you're stuck. And there are only two things you can do. You can either leave the game or type IDDQD to kill yourself. Yeah. Now in the 5-episode version of Heretic, there are actually 2 additional hidden levels, and they appear as E6M1, 2 and 3. Let's take a look. See, we have 5 episodes now. So now we'll type engage 61. We'll cheat a little to make things easier. Now this level is supposedly based on Raven's offices, and that's why it has an unofficial fan name, Offices, or Raven's Lair also. I've heard it called this way. And yeah, indeed it does look like offices, you know, there are even bathrooms, storage rooms. Oh, there's the bathroom. Something like an office space, an outside area with, I don't know, a fountain of some sort, and so on. The next hidden map is sometimes referred to as the Water Shrine or the Ruined Temple. It's a fairly big map actually. Features a lot of monsters, items, weapons, and it has an exit. Well, the previous one had an exit too. It takes you here to E6M2. No official name on the map. It's a pretty interesting map. This area is really nice, actually. And finally, there's E6M3, which should be familiar. Yep, it's that map again. The original E4M1. And this map, its unofficial fan name is American's Legacy. A bit of a peculiar name, isn't it? Well, it's named after American McGee, a game developer who used to work at id Software for a while. He took part in the making of Doom 2, he made episode 3 of Quake, and he also made this map. Well, not this map that we are located in right now. He made its prototype, which is actually a deathmatch map for Doom 2. It was released as a custom WAD, a standalone custom WAD, and it's probably the only custom Doom 2 map made by a member of id Software while they were still working there. And I'll show it to you real quick. It's called idmap01.wad. And as I mentioned, it's made by American McGee. It's map 1, and it's a purely deathmatch map, so no monsters in it. Yeah, this looks familiar. There's this yard here. This time there's a rocket launcher here. This room, this time there's a BFG here. Nice. Then this place here. These are simple windows. In the Heretic version there's something like improvised secrets that you can access by flying, but Doom doesn't have flying, so they're just windows now. There's this thing again, you jump down here to open this. This time there's a supercharge in here. Plasma gun is up here. And the little area in the back, oh, there's a berserk here. The little area in the back now contains a super shotgun. And again an elevator. Well, beside the lack of monsters, the other significant difference between the Doom and the Heretic version of this map is that this one has an exit and can actually be completed. In Heretic, this map doesn't have an exit, and if you try putting one in with a map editor, you'll just cause the game to crash when it attempts to go to the next level, which doesn't exist, obviously. So yeah, that's idmap01, just a deathmatch level, a small one, but most such maps back in the day were small, so that's really not very surprising. Okay, at this point we're done with Heretic, and I think we can go to Hexen. And I know it's not exactly the most popular among the Doom engine games, but I've always had a particular love for it. I don't know why, I just have a soft spot for it. Now, I just remembered something. At the start of the video I mentioned how Raven didn't just take engines from id Software, they also improved them a little bit. And of course, both Heretic and Hexen run on modified Doom engines, though they're based on different versions of the Doom engine. Heretic was based on 1.2 and Hexen on 1.666, the more advanced one. And the improvements to the engine in Heretic included looking up and down, flying, ghost enemies, alternate firing modes with the Tome of Power, more advanced effects when walking through water or lava, an inventory system, of course, and other small touches. And Hexen added stuff like scrolling skies, earthquakes, atmospheric effects such as fog, playing as multiple classes, each with its own unique weapons, inventory items that have different effects depending on the class that's using them, and of course the most important thing, the scripting system, which allows for complex actions to be executed within a map or even in other maps Like you press a button in one map and a door opens in another. We'll start with Hexen 1.0 because some of the things I want to show you can only be found in this original version. We'll look at one bug, one exploit, and one hidden secret. So first we'll look at a bug. Hexen 1.0 has this weird bug where some items have their names swapped. For example, this thing in front of me is a disc of repulsion, but when you pick it up the message says chaos device for some reason. Does this mean that when you pick up a chaos device it will say disc of repulsion? Yes, it does. They swapped the names of the two items for some reason. It was probably an oversight. Well, it happens. I mentioned an exploit. It's in this map, that's Castle of Grief. And some people found out that if you turn yourself into a pig, you can slip under this wall. And you can turn yourself into a pig by using one of the traps in this map. There is a room with several walls that shoot projectiles at you. These projectiles are kind of random and sometimes include a transformation projectile that turns you into a pig. Now for the sake of this demonstration I'll pigify myself with a cheat, which is deliverance. And now I can sneak under this wall and skip a pretty sizable chunk of this hub. And that's quite a big sequence break. Or maybe we can call it a speedrunning trick. Yeah. Now for something a lot more interesting. Oops. This version of Hexen has a leftover development map. By development map I mean a map that was used for testing purposes by the guys at Raven and was supposed to be removed before the game's release. In fact, there is some leftover information in the WAD file, hexen.wad, that indicates there were about 20 such test maps. Well, some of them were test maps, others were supposed to be regular maps but were cut from the game for some reason, maybe to prevent it from being too long. And they were deleted altogether, not included in the iWAD. However, one of these test maps somehow survived and remained. They forgot to remove it. And it exists under map slot 41. So I'll type in the chip visit 41 and go there. Oops, sorry. And here we are. The secret inaccessible level of Hexen, and it's called Maze. Not very promising, and if we look at the map, the whole thing is one giant maze, and these small cubicles on the side are tiny rooms with switches in them. Pressing these switches usually changes the layout of the maze in such way. No music, but there is some thunder in the background, so it's not completely silent. So you can explore this maze. Well, this was supposed to open, but it doesn't for some reason. Maybe I messed something up, I don't know. Well, I can always cheat. So if you press the switch, it will change the layout of the walls a little bit, allowing you to access more areas of the maze. But that's all pretty pointless because there is nothing to find here. There are no monsters, no items, nothing in this maze. It's just a test map. I don't know what exactly they were testing here, but yeah, that's all. Just walls, switches, which change the walls, and if you're not careful, sometimes the wall can crush you to death, which isn't very nice, of course. And most importantly, this map can only be visited in version 1.0. It was removed in 1.1, which pretty much confirms my theory that indeed it was just a test map and it was never meant to be seen by the players. That's us. So yeah, that's what I can show you in here. And as for that exploit, when we go to Hexen 1.1, the updated version, the exploit has been fixed. And now we can no longer sequence break. Yep, see, the hole is smaller now. And if we do some deliverance again, nope, no longer there. And if we try to visit the secret maze, visit 41, can't find map, it was removed. So yeah, that was Hexen, but now we can take a look at its add-on as well, the Death Kings of the Dark Citadel. Okay, so I already mentioned that one of the improvements done to the Doom engine for Hexen was the addition of atmospheric effects, more specifically fog. And when making a map with fog, a designer would generally do two things. The first being that the map would be primarily outdoors, because indoor fog is kinda weird. And the second one being avoiding the use of lighting effects like blinking lights, strobing lights, periodic lights, and so on. However, there is one level in Death Kings which combines fog and blinking lights to create a very interesting effect. Let me show you. So the map is Sump, and in the northern end of the Sump is this thing. Ooh, looks weird, doesn't it? Well, that's actually some kind of periodic light that starts from the bottom, moves to the top, and then the cycle repeats itself. And by being combined with the fog effect on this map, it creates this really unusual effect. It's an interesting design choice, I suppose. Yeah, it's kinda cool to look at least for a while. What other oddities are there in Death Kings? Evil Tomb. What's an evil tomb? Well, this is in the level Abattoir. There is a level with the same name in Plutonia Experiment, by the way, which is misspelled, as you probably know. This one is spelled correctly, actually. Yep, it's another French word. So there's this room with lots and lots of skeletons and nothing else. Maybe you're supposed to break them? What would happen then? I wonder. I hope it's not a trap. You dare plunder the tomb of the executioner? Prepare to die. He starts teleporting in enemies. Yeah, there are some various small features and traps throughout Death Kings hidden here and there. Though my favorite one is the angry button. What's an angry button, you ask? Ooh, let me show you. So this is Brackenwood, a map where you're supposed to do several very simple puzzles with buttons. And when you're done, you can finally come here, press this switch, and it will let you continue onward to this platform and finally to this green gem hanging on a chain over there. You need this gem to solve the main puzzle of the hub and move on to the next hub. But what happens if you press this switch when you are not ready, when you haven't solved the puzzle yet? Let's see. You have not completed the puzzle. Yeah, as expected. Another time. The same message, well, no surprises here, but if you keep persisting and pushing the button, it will start to get angry with you. I'm warning you. Ooh, this sounds ominous. By the way, notice that I have a full 100% health. That's important. Stubborn, aren't you? And notice that I lost 4 HP. The button hurt me. Ooh, I wonder if it would go one step further and actually kill me. And stupid, too. Yep, it pushed me into the pit. How very nice of it. So yeah, the moral of the story is don't annoy this button. And don't come here unless you've solved the puzzles. Now, beside these oddities, we can also see a legitimate Easter egg, which can be found here in this map, the marketplace. So if you look carefully at these, they're actually windows on the ceiling. So if you look at them on the map, you can see that they resemble something very familiar from pop culture. It's the Starship Enterprise from the Star Trek series. And if you've played Duke Nukem 3D, you probably remember one of its levels, Warp Factor, is based on the ship. It even has the control room as a secret. So yeah, it's just a little Easter egg. What isn't an Easter egg, however, is the transit. What is the transit, you ask? I'll just show you. So, Death Kings of the Dark Citadel has 3 hubs, which make up its primary single-player campaign. However, there is also an additional hidden hub, which is only accessible by cheating, and it's a bunch of maps which are primarily intended for multiplayer. However, they can be played in single player as well, because they are fully populated with monsters, weapons, items, etc. So this is the transit. It's the first map of this hub. It's the actual hub, and it has these buttons that lead to all the other maps. For example, number 1 takes us to Over and Under. Here we can see one of the things that Hexen does really nicely. It's melee combat. It just feels so satisfying to hack and slash these monsters in this game. So Over and Under is basically a pit of water and a series of like these steps that lead upwards. I'll remove the monsters so they don't get in the way, and I'll climb. And when you reach the top, there is a button that takes you back to the transit hub. But yeah, this definitely looks like a deathmatch map. It has some hidden alcoves here and there that have windows allowing you to shoot at other players without being noticed. The teleporter takes you down to the water, and this switch takes you back to the hub. Map number 2 is Death Fog. It's basically a swamp with fog and some buildings around it. I suppose this is intended for people who enjoy playing with reduced visibility or something like that. Yeah. Besides that, it's nothing really special. And again, somewhere around here there should be a switch to bring me back to the central hub. But I wonder where it is. It's around here somewhere. Well, I can always jump back by cheating. Why not? Then number 3. Number 3 is Castle of Pain, which is called that way because it looks like a castle, obviously. And yeah, it's a castle wall, then there are some buildings inside. Again, it's multiplayer map, so don't expect some exquisite detail or some really special features. Oh, there is a bell here. Can I ring it? Oh yeah, and it creates some force field steps. Nice. Okay, let's get out of here. I think we've overstayed our welcome. Then number 4. What is number 4? Sewer pit! Can you guess what this is? That's right, folks, it's a sewer level. Because you can't have a 90s FPS without a sewer level, right? Although, well, if we're honest, there are some FPS from the 90s that didn't have sewer levels, like, for example, Rise of the Tyrants. Though this was mainly because its engine wasn't advanced enough to create such a level. Maybe that was the reason. And finally my favorite of the bunch, number 5, which is the Rose. It's something like a frozen garden. I really like the visual style. It's kind of dark and melancholic. It has some nice vibes to it, even though it's a little depressing too. So yeah, these are the maps of this hidden hub. There is just one last oddity that I can show you here. You see, this transit hub is also a radio room of sorts. And it doesn't like it when people fight in the radio room. Let me show you. You dare battle in the radio room? For that you shall die! Oh, I forgot to turn off God mode. Sorry. It was an honest mistake. But yeah, the ceiling crushes you and you die. Unless you've turned on God mode, of course, which I did and forgot to turn it off. Again, sorry about this. It is another time. Properly this time. Oh god, it turned it on again by itself. Oh yes, it doesn't autosave. Another Hexen oddity, it autosaves. So every time you start a level, it brings you back to the same condition you were where you started. In this case, with God mode turned on. Finally! Well, folks, I think that concludes our demonstration. That's all that I can show you for Death Kings today. Alright, folks, this is already becoming a pretty long video, so I guess we should stop here. In closing, I think I should tell you that today is actually a very special day. It's an anniversary, actually. On this day, exactly 1 year ago, I adopted a kitten. Yeah, her name is Olya. And of course, over the last year she grew up. She's a big adult cat now, and she's gorgeous. And when she was a little kitten, she was very, very mischievous. Caused all sorts of trouble around here. 1 week in August, I spent the entire week without an internet connection because somebody chewed through the cable. Somebody with very sharp teeth. Yeah, thankfully nowadays she has a bit more self-control, which is good, because at one point I was really starting to get crazy with all the little mischief she was doing. Wow, it's been a whole year. Time flies. Indeed it does. So, see you next time, guys. Next time will be the 10th video, I think. So it probably should have a really nice topic too, like maybe another round of lesser known details about Doom maps. We shall see. For now, goodbye.